Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'd like to continue a series I began quite a while ago where we talk to other photographers. And today I have a guest, an Australian guest called Craig Richards. Now Craig is from Warrnambool on the southern coast of Australia. In fact, the Great Ocean Road, which is a fantastic place for photography. I'm sure you'll be inspired by listening to what Craig has to say. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so welcome to Craig and Craig Richards from the great city of Warrnambool. Love it down there. It's an awesome spot. So Craig, how about you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and what you do?
Yeah, sure. First, thanks for having me on here, Richard. It's an honor to be on here with you and have a bit of a chat and talk to your followers and let them know a little bit about what I do down at the Great Ocean Road here.
Yeah.
So basically, I live in Warrnambool. It's only a stone's throw from most of the iconic locations on the Great Ocean Road, like the 12 Apostles and Lockhart Gorge, and then there's also the Otway Ranges, and then it's really only about an hour and a half to the Grampian National Park as well. So it's a prime location really for photography.
Yeah, sounds awesome. So basically tell us how you got into photography in the first place.
Probably like a lot of teenagers, especially teenage boys. I started off with a video camera filming my rollerblading when I was a teenager. And then as I got a little bit older, I got a bit more money and got a DSLR and started filming with that. And then just one night I managed to, I wasn't sleeping well, so I decided to go down to the beach in Warrnambool and took my camera with me. I had my camera bag and actually just sat the camera on top of the bag and was just playing around and pushing the shutter button. It was all in automatic and it managed to do a 30-second exposure and exposed, and I captured some stars, and that just blew me away and hooked me on the spot. I think it was only about a year after that I didn't actually do any more video. I was just doing photography after that.
Fantastic. So basically what you're telling me is that you started off your photography shooting the stars in the night sky.
Yeah, basically that's the first thing that wowed me about photography was an accidental photo of the night sky.
Wow, how about that? So, I mean, I'm the same. I mean, I was a kid. I was younger than a teenager when I first tried to take photos of the stars, and it was a complete, well, pretty much a failure because of the technology of the day. So it sounds like you're hooked on nightscape photography. Now, I know that you do, and we're going to show images soon, but you do a lot of landscape photography and but also a lot of nightscape photography. So maybe if you want to, I don't know, show us a couple of images and we'll get started with that.
We might as well start with the location where I first took my photo. I recently took one earlier this week from the same location in Warrnambool. A much better photo than my first original night photo I took. But we sort of just have to take the opportunity when it comes up down here for night photography. We don't get a lot of clear skies down here, but when we do, when they're over the ocean, I have taken quite a few images inland, but over the ocean, the stars seem to reflect off the ocean as well. So there's sort of creates a little bit more light in the sky. Well, it feels like it does to me anyway. So I've got a photo of, it's actually called Penguin Island. The islands are out of was a movie, Oddball, that Shane Jacobson was starring in. They had the dogs that protected the penguins from the fox attacks. So that's what this island in the photo is of. And I just managed to get the Milky Way to line up above it. So
yeah, I love this shot. This is awesome. Now, the thing I like about this, you've captured Venus there under the Milky Way core over the top of the island. I had a bit of an adventure the other night trying to capture this situation as well over a lake here in central Victoria. It was a bit of failure. By the time people see this video, they will have already seen that video. So I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I love it. It's awesome. And I have seen that movie. It's a great movie. If anyone, those of you overseas away from Australia, there's some good Australian movies, and that's one that's worth watching. So to tell us about the setting, what sort of settings, and while we're talking about that, I'll ask you also about what camera gear that you like to use.
Sure. So at the moment, I'm using the Nikon D750. Oh, sorry, Nikon Z6. I used to use the 750. It's still in my bag, but that's my backup camera now. And at the moment, I'm just using the 14 to 30 mil f4 lens. Not the best lens for astro, but it actually comes out quite well. There's a little bit of extra processing and stuff that I do with my images when I shoot with an f4 rather than f2.8, just for some noise reduction and that sort of thing. But it comes up pretty clean. So, and there's actually a fair bit of light on the foreground in this image. There's a road that runs behind us in this image that's got street lights on it. So you actually have to dull down the foreground to get the sky to come out and blend it in so it looks more natural.
Yep. And Warrnambool is it's a beautiful place, but it's known as windy Warrnambool. Tell us a little bit about that area and what it's like to shoot down there. Yeah,
so we get a good mixture of wind and rain. Probably, I don't know. It's nice during the summer for summer activities, swimming and surfing and that sort of thing. But to get out during winter, you really have to immerse yourself in the elements and embrace them. I do have a bit of a saying, like the worst weather brings the greatest photography or the best images. You get more atmosphere out of a landscape image with bad weather. During summer, it's harder to get atmosphere in your photos than it is during spring, winter, and autumn. So, I just make a point of getting myself out in the bad weather. When it's bad, I just don't let it stop me. I just put on waterproof clothing and go.
Okay, so use the Nikon, the Z6 and the 14 to 30. I think I've seen some pictures you've shot with a 20 mil f1.8 as well.
So at the moment I've still got the F mount 20 mil 1.8. I'm hoping to get the 20 mil Z series and then I'll get rid of the other one. But yeah, it's a really great lens to use for landscape and night photography. Actually some of the images I think I've probably taken with the 20 mil. I'd have to check the metadata on the images.
Yeah, no, that's okay. All right, well, do you want to show us a few more images and we'll just go through them and see?
So I will stay with the area. So there's Port Fairy. It's about 20 minutes down the road from Warrnambool, a little bit more south. It's always a location I go to at the start of the Milky Way season. The Milky Way comes up in the east, and we've got a lighthouse down there in Port Fairy that points east. It's great for sunrise photography, and it's perfect for the start of the Milky Way season if we've got the clear skies for it. So I've got two images. The first one, it's just a bit of a cheeky selfie with a torch pointing up the lighthouse.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a good selfie. I don't mind a few of those myself.
I don't know. I guess it gives the idea that you can be in the same situation. You can experience it yourself. It also adds a bit of scale to the image and that sort of thing. And they look good on social media and let people know that you get out there and they can see someone's in the scene and that sort of thing. So that's sort of why I do a few of those every now and then.
Yeah, I think it's also good to look back on and say, oh, yeah, I remember that night when I was there. And because we take a lot of photos and sometimes we sort of, they all just blend into each other. But you see one like this and you think, oh, yeah, that's that night I was there and I set myself up. So that's my excuse anyway.
Yeah, well, my partner, Samara, she quite often says to me, how come we don't have photos of us? And I'm like, because I don't like being in front of the camera.
It's a common problem for photographers. They're always behind the camera rather than in front of the camera.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, so you got another one there from Port Fairy as well.
So it's pretty common sort of composition that people use. There's a pathway that leads up through to the lighthouse. And with that image, I remember quite a while ago, but I do remember I focus stacked the foreground in this one so I could get the sharp foreground leading up into the lighthouse. And I know with the sky in this one, I did I stacked the sky as well. So the actual sky was 10-second exposures. I can't remember exactly how many, but I normally do 20, whether I use the 20 or not. Sort of just depends on if I need to. So get 10-second exposures. So I get the points, the stars as points, and then stack them in a Starry Landscape stacker, I think I use on Mac.
Yep, that'd be right. Yep.
Yeah, and
fantastic. Well, it's a method I use all the time, and it's actually surprisingly a fairly quick workflow, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I mean, it's quite simple to put them together in Photoshop afterwards, just to stack them together with the foreground. So I know you do a lot of light painting to illuminate your foregrounds. With my photography, generally I'll take like 5 to 8 minute exposures for the foreground. If it's a foreground where there's nothing moving much, because it doesn't take much wind to blur everything out if it's foreground. And I'll usually use an ISO of about 640 for the foreground, a minimum f4, but usually a 5.6 or something, so I can get more of the foreground in photo, and I'll do my foregrounds that way. Yeah,
no, that's fair enough. And a lot of people do the same thing. So I can see from your images it's working quite well. Yeah,
they come up pretty good. There are definitely failures that people don't see.
We all have those.
Everyone sees all the ones that you're proud to put out there, but they don't understand of the pain you go through beforehand. Everyone. Sure. Yeah, we all start at the same point in photography, trying to learn it and build yourself up. So,
no doubt about that. All right, what else you got to show us?
Other than nightscape photography, my other love is waterfalls. So I've got a couple of Hopeton Falls. There's both the image I've got here of Hopeton Falls and the Otways.
They
were taken on the same day, and I was talking to you yesterday about when I go away somewhere amazing and I come back and then something here blows me away. The sun rays that come through on these photos I'd never witnessed before. It's something I'd seen a couple of people had photographed before, but it was something I'd never saw myself, and I didn't know you have to be at the right time of the year, you have to have the right type of sky to let the sun in, and then you have to have the right amount of water coming over to throw the mist in the air for the light to hit. So I was pretty ecstatic when I was out taking these photos.
Now, I remember, I'm pretty sure you filmed a video of this. Is that right? That you were there shooting, and you talked about this on that video. Am I right? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Good. So I should mention that you have got a YouTube channel, and I know you haven't got a whole lot of videos there, but anyone who wants to actually tune in and see this man at work, there's a few videos on his channel. What's your channel called?
I think it's pretty simple. I think it's just Craig Richards. I'm not even sure if it's Craig Richards.
It doesn't matter. I'll put it up on the screen and people can have a look. And but it's funny because when you started talking about this image, it rang a bell with something I'd seen that you'd done a while ago. I don't know when that was, but anyway, continue on. That's good.
Yeah. So I was actually, when I was down there when this was happening, I had Nikon Australia let me out their 70 to 200 lens to test out, and it's probably in the wrong location to be using it. I did get some nice photos with it on the day, but I took these photos with 14 to 30 mil. So I've sort of lined up the composition in this one. You can see there's a fallen tree that falls across the screen from the left-hand side and goes across the stream, and then you've got the stream that leads you up, and everything sort of leads you around into that waterfall. I always try and use some sort of leading line or some sort of way to frame the main subject in my landscape photography. You really want the viewer to go to the subject that you've taken the photo.
No, I can see you've done that quite well there.
And with the next one, it's a vertical orientation, sort of a bit of a leading line, another fallen tree from the left, but I've framed the actual waterfall in a frame with the ferns coming down through the top and with the light.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love that. That one really does frame well. And look, I've never been to this location, but from what I can gather, it's difficult to get a composition because of all the foliage, and it pretty much always is with waterfalls, isn't it?
It is, but that's what I really love about it is the fact that you can go there and you can still find, like, you go to these locations like the 12 Apostles and places like that, and everyone takes that same iconic shot, whereas you go to a waterfall, and Hopeton Falls is a really well-known waterfall down here in Victoria, and so many people go there, and you can go there and it's not that hard to get a photo that's completely different to anybody else because of the foliage and stuff around. You just need to. I'll spend probably 3-4 hours at this waterfall when I go there, just walking around, just immersing myself in the area and just find little pockets. There might be a little hole where you can see the water fall through, or something like that, something of interest that's a small detail that you can put in the frame and lead yourself up into the waterfall. Other than night photography, waterfalls are my real passion.
Yeah, and I think you've probably hit on one of the things about photography in general, and that is just spending time out there in nature and admiring the majesty of something like that. I mean, the water coming over waterfalls, and it's mesmerizing, isn't it? You could spend hours looking at it, and then there's all the other stuff around it, like just the walk and track into these places, and the ferns, and as you say, then there's the light and everything else. So, no, that's fantastic. So, so this is down on the Great Ocean Road. Now, you've done a bit of travelling around, haven't you? You've got some images from other places. Or maybe you can show us those in a minute, but I want to ask you, what would be your favourite image that do you have a favourite image that you've ever taken?
I do have a favourite image. It's one that was in my mind pretty much since I first saw a thunderstorm down here in Warrnambool along the Great Ocean Road. I always wanted to get a lightning bolt at the 12 Apostles. And my friends and I down here, we've got a bit of a community of photographers in the town. And anytime there's a storm, we're all excited. We all love trying to capture a storm because they don't happen that often down this way. So the night that this one happened, there's a few locations around town I tried to position myself in that, and the storm I could see was just passing too far away from these locations. It would have just been a tiny little thunderbolt or strike in the photo. I just took a chance. I was in shorts and t-shirt and it was a summer night, and I went down I thought I'll go down the Great Ocean Road, I'll go to the 12 Apostles and see what happens. And I pulled up to the 12 Apostles. I actually ran to the platform because the storm was so close. And I went to the platform, and there was another photographer, a local guy there. I can't remember his name now, but I do know him through some local photography groups. And he'd been there taking photos, and he told me he hadn't done any good. And there's a big sheet of rain, like it was coming through, and he's just going, I'm going to go take cover. And I'm like, I'm here for the photo. So I'm setting up in the rain with my camera, and I got the image, and he come back, and after the rain had passed and the storm had passed and gone out to sea, and he asked me if I got anything, and I showed him the back of the camera. He's good, you've got to be joking. I've got this massive bolt come down, hit the water, and there's another one off to the other side that's lit the Apostles from the other side. So it just all come together, and I guess it was just because I took the risk of standing in the rain and just being there for it. And I really do love that photo.
So I'm looking at it now. It's a beautiful image, because I mean, that location is beautiful anyway. I know it's iconic, and I know every man and his dog goes there and gets a photo of it and a selfie over the railing, but it is a pretty good viewing platform there. And it's a fantastic perspective. And I know that the Milky Way core lines up perfectly down there in the western sky later in the year. I think you've got some images of that too, haven't you?
True.
Yeah, I've got one here, which is the portrait orientation. It's actually got the bioluminescence on it, so that's even more awesome.
I've had some luck at the Apostles, to be honest. This one was something I'd never planned on taking a photo of. I'd never heard of it at the 12 Apostles. I actually went down the Great Ocean Road. A good friend of mine was supposed to come with me, and at the last minute he pulled out. We're going to go shoot a sunset. I got down there, and I was going to shoot at the Baker's Oven location, and I got there, and the sunset sort of fizzed out, and there wasn't much to capture, and the sky cleared out, and you don't want a clear sky for a sunset. I had a look on my phone on the app that I use to check my weather, and it looked like it was clearing. So I thought I'll have a nap in the car, and I'll wait for the dark sky, and I might be able to get a Milky Way or something like that. So then I drove down to the Apostles and just sort of wandered up to the platform where you take your photos from there. And I was standing there, and the waves were, as they were rolling through, this electric blue color was like lighting up. It was like an aurora in the water. It was just, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe it.
Incredible.
I got on the phone to my mate Engen, and he told me not to tell anybody and kill anybody that come along. And I couldn't do that. I messaged every single person I knew in the area. I'm not one to hog something like that. So my Josh Beams, my friend, he managed to come down and met me at the platform, and he got some great photos himself. And I sent some messages to the local tourism guy at Port Campbell as well, but unfortunately didn't see my messages until the next day, so he missed it as well. So Josh and myself are the only ones that actually got the images of this, and I was lucky enough that Australian Geographic and Australian Photography magazine put them up on their websites and had a little bit of a story and stuff behind them. So
it's fantastic image. And obviously you're in the right spot at the right time. But see, this is an interesting thing for me is people say, oh, it's just luck. But I tell you what, if you hadn't have been there and taken the time to actually sleep in the car and a few other things that caused this for you to be there when this was happening, you would never have seen it.
Yeah, that's right. I guess the bioluminescence is luck. The Milky Way was planned. But that's the thing. You have to put yourself out there to be able to be in position to capture these things when they happen. Things like bioluminescence, that's not something you can often predict, especially down here anyway. Yeah,
well, I don't live near the ocean, so I've never seen it. But it's awesome. Looks fantastic. So just speaking about locations, obviously the Great Ocean Road is a major location for you because you live there. For those who don't know Australia very well, let's say somewhere near Geelong to Portland, would it go that far?
It depends on who you talk to. If you talk to someone from Portland, they'll say Portland.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But it's getting stretched out, but all the way to Portland, even to down to like South Australia way there, like that whole coastline from there on, the whole thing's amazing.
So it's a long way. It's a 200 or 300 Ks by the time you take all the twists and turns of the road. It's a long way. It's a long way. And it's everywhere you turn down there seems to be somewhere where you'd like to be able to get to. You can't always get to it because it's over a cliff or something like that. So besides the Great Ocean Road, where else around the world have you shot, and what sort of stuff have you got from there?
So probably the biggest thing it's probably Norway. I managed to go on a trip to Norway. And, it was sort of a trip that I wasn't expecting to take. I got invited to go by some other mates that were going, and someone had pulled out of the trip and they had an extra spot and they asked me if I'd come along. And
good.
It's probably the best decision of my life, to be honest, to witness the Northern Lights. And we spent, I think it was 8 or 10 days, but it was full on photography. It was every day. There was only a few hours of daylight when we were there. I think it was February.
Wow. And so I'm looking at an image now, which is the landscape orientation image here of, I don't know, it looks like a field or something with the lights over the top of it.
I can't even remember the exact location because I can't pronounce the name. I do know it was probably an hour from, I think it's Rain, the place where they have all those buildings, and the iconic place where everyone goes when they go to Norway to take a photo. It's about an hour-ish from there. And it's basically, it was just on a beach. As you go further around, there's a bit of a sandy beach, and this one was just sitting on some rocks, and there was just a little bit of a cut out in the rocks. The water was coming in there and rushing back out when the Northern Lights. And just as an example for this one, the Northern Lights is a lot different than shooting any sort of nightscape down this way. You need a high ISO and faster shutter speed. So
So what would you have? Roughly would you have shot this one with? Do you reckon?
So I know I shot this one. I had a 15mm Irix lens.
Okay.
It's a 2.4. I've actually got the information here on my phone.
Okay.
So with a shutter speed of 4 seconds. If you go for the longer shutter speed, you might have captured the southern lights down. I think you're in Tassie. You got a show.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was using interesting when I was there, but it probably wasn't as bright as this, but it was pretty bright. And I was shooting 4, 5, 6, and 8-second shutter speeds.
Yeah.
So I know what you're talking about. Yeah, but this is fantastic. So you use the IRIX. So tell us about that lens, because I don't know very many people that use it for nightscapes.
It's a really good lens. It was sort of compared to the Zeiss 15mm.
Okay. Yep.
Image wise, so there's two versions of it. There's a plastic version and a metal one.
Yep.
Optically, they're exactly the same. The metal one has a little bit more weather sealing.
Yep.
And it's a bit heavier, and it's more expensive.
Yeah.
It's a 2.4 lens.
Yeah.
50mm, and it's really good for nightscape because it's a total manual focus lens. And it's also got a locking ring on it. So once you get your focus in, you can lock it and it won't move. So it's something that I have a bit of trouble with sometimes with nightscape stuff. You'll be moving around and you'll bump your focus and you might take an image and you'll be out of focus. So once you lock it in at infinity on this lens, like that's it. It's locked there. It won't move.
Yeah. No, that's good. So do you find it pretty good in the corners, like for sharpness and for things like coma and things like that?
It does have a bit of coma. I've noticed. The corners are a little soft, but generally on a nightscape sort of photo, it's pretty common for most lenses to have a little bit soft corner. I do know that the new 20mm Z lens is really, really good in the corners. It's probably the best I've seen in the corners for a wide open lens. No,
that's good. They're fantastic. It's beautiful, and we're looking at time lapse as well at the moment. And it's nice. Isn't it nice to have just to be able to see the movement in that sort of a little bit speeded up version. So that's fantastic. Now you've also been to New Zealand. I don't know if I've got any images from there, but I think there was one I saw from Mount Cook.
Yeah, so Mount Cook, I've got one there. That was a freezing night, but that was a night where I've never seen the Milky Way so bright in my life. New Zealand's lucky. There's not a lot of light pollution in New Zealand, especially in this sort of location. And I guess the light sort of bounces off the snow on the mountains and illuminates a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those spots where you can actually look up at the stars and they actually really do twinkle. Like you can see the stars just.
And that's what I found down in the southwest of Tasmania. It was exactly the same. It was very dark, lots of mountains. There wasn't any snow when I was there, but the sky is so crisp.
Yeah. It's just that light pollution that a lot of people that live in the cities think that's how the night sky looks. But in reality, if you can get out to those darker spots and see it, you'll see a lot more.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I know a lot of the viewers watching this video live in Europe, the UK, some parts of the US where they have to travel for a long way just to get reasonable skies. And you and I are sort of blessed a bit because we live in Australia. It's a dark sky country. And you're talking about New Zealand, which is exactly the same. So, these are awesome. Love them. Okay, what else have you got for us? I see you've got one of the Grotto. The Grotto is down on the Great Ocean Road, for those who don't know, and it's this little cove. Tell us a little bit about this one.
So this one, it's just another one of those little. I was out with a mate this night, and the Milky Way wasn't really lining up, and we were trying to find a location of where we could just take a photo or something. And my friend was trying to learn a bit more about night photography and that sort of thing. He hadn't done a lot of it. So we just decided we'd have this little lantern and we'd try and make it look like we're walking into a scene at night. Not something that's easy to capture, and it's not something that's easy to hold still while you're holding a lantern for 25, 30 seconds at a time to get a photo, but we managed to be able to get one. So
no, I like it. It's an awesome picture. I visited there last year when I was down there, and it was pretty bad weather when I was there, but I could see the potential of the place, that's for sure. So you've explained a little bit here already, but what do you see as your greatest challenge about shooting photography in general and specifically nightscape photography?
The challenge is probably trying to be original at the moment. There's so many photographers out there taking images and great images too, but trying to be original and not copy or reproduce exactly the same as somebody else. It's good to I try to, if I'm going to a new location, I won't look at any photos from any of those locations for a month or 2 months before I go. Just for the pure fact, I want to go in there pure and be able to see what I see, not what somebody else sees. Because to get those images,
that's good. Yeah, that's a good advice, because that's not something I've heard a lot of people talk about. Because a lot of other people say they do the exact opposite to that and actually hit up Instagram and Facebook and whatever, and actually see what everyone else is doing, so they know where to go. So that's an interesting piece of advice.
Yeah, it's how I try to be more original in some of my photos. Like the spots you go to that you're gonna be taking the same composition because that's where you've been put, like 12 Apostles, for example. But there's plenty of other ways. You can even get low on a platform or get a bit higher or something. Just try and I don't think I've shared a photo with you. I should have. There's one I've got from Milford Sound in New Zealand. I actually climbed up into a tree to frame I can't remember the name of the peak, the main peak at Milford Sound. I climbed into a tree to frame it with that. So I actually had the tripod myself up in a tree while people were walking.
A tripod in a tree, that's a first.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, with the magic of video editing, maybe you could send me that and magically I could put it into this video, just an idea.
Yeah, no, I'll send that one through so you can put that into the video. Yeah, so just things like that. Obviously, don't put yourself in danger and that sort of thing. I was only maybe 4 foot in the tree or something like that. You don't want to be falling out of the tree and breaking a leg or something like that. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, just simple, not simple things. Maybe think like a child can help get low, and that sort of thing. Leading lines is something I always look for in most of my photos that I take. I like to be able to push people into the view of where I want them to see.
And interesting you mentioned that, because it's just at the moment on the screen I'm looking at one from, is it Mount Buffalo, where you've got a road on the bottom of the shot on the right-hand side. It looks like it's taken in blue hour or something, but that road is lit. There must be a car or something traveling along it.
Yeah, so that was another trip I did with some friends. I do a lot of photography trips with friends. We were just up on the mountain waiting for the sky to change, and it was a blue hour, so the sun had just gone down, so there's a bit of a glow coming up, and there's a shooting star in one of the corners as well. And
yes, I can see that.
Got the car, so there's a few different elements to the photo, but I try to sort of get them to sort of lead you into like a three-dimensional image that you feel like you could sort of walk into or fly into or something like that.
Yeah, no, well, you've done it quite well, and so I'm showing these images as we go along, and I'm sure the viewers are getting an appreciation of the quality of the photography. Now, there's plenty of images on your website or on your social media, on your Facebook and your Instagram, that people can follow you. And look, it's been fantastic chatting with you today. In closing, I guess, do you have any advice that you would give to people who are aspiring to be photographers, and particularly Nightscape photographers?
Yeah, I guess so. Don't be discouraged if you've only got kit gear, because I've been out with plenty of people that have got kit lenses and that sort of thing. You can still take Nightscape photos and that sort of thing, and the composition is probably more important than a photo that has a bit of noise in it. In my opinion anyway. If you don't have a good composition, you're not going to have a photo. So if you've got a photo that's got a bit of grain and noise in it, it can still work as a photo as such if you've got a good composition. So I always say composition before just about anything. And you can learn the rest afterwards.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think it's a good learning curve. If you can get a half decent image with a kit lens, kit camera, then as soon as you start increasing your quality of equipment, your images are just going to get better because you already know the basic techniques that are involved, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. Once you learn about the ISO and your shutter speed and all that sort of thing, like it just comes together, and it comes together quite quickly. And with Nightscape photography, you shoot wide open at whatever the lowest aperture you have, and then your ISO, you set that. So once you've got it all set in Nightscape photography, generally you can spend the night out and take a few different compositions without having to change your settings too much.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so you sort of lock in, it gets into your brain and it becomes like second nature to you. No, that's all fantastic. Well, look, Craig, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you and with you and sharing with all the folks out there. So, look, if you're out there wanting to know some great Australian landscape photographers, there's plenty of them around, and this man is one of them. And just follow him on social media or wherever. Get onto his YouTube channel. Give him a like and a subscribe, and he might get out there and take a few more videos. You just never know what you can force to happen in this day and age. Anyway, good on you, Craig. I really do appreciate you tuning in and joining me for this series. I'm looking for some more people to chat with, and I think it's been an awesome time.
All right, thanks very much, Richard. I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope everyone got something out of the interview or learned something, or if anyone's down the Great Ocean Road, search me out and contact me, and I can push you in the right direction.
Awesome. Good on you. We'll catch you down the track.
All right. Thanks, Richard.